Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Saturday, November 30th, 2019, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research Channel here on YouTube. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. All right, guys, well, we're going to continue looking at the quote unquote giants or large hominids, as I like to call them, state by state, and we're going to do Ohio. This is a part two. I mentioned in the part one that I would do a second part because it seems only natural in the state with all these earthworks and mounds, etc. Newark earthworks, the Serpent Mound, all these other mounds, and many more that have long been destroyed and gone. Chuck just did a video on CFFs, did one on Mound Complex in Detroit that was destroyed some time ago. It's a good thing that he's going over these things because we never know about them. Okay, you got to do a lot of research to find out about them and what was found in them, et cetera, et cetera. So it takes a lot to do all this stuff, guys. It really does. But before I even get to the Ohio reports, I'm going to try to read through them fast because I picked out a lot of them, and I don't know if I can cover them all. So if it just runs out, it runs out the time in my camera here. So sorry about that, but I'll try to go through them quick and not add a lot of other stuff to them. Try to get through them, but just as you mentioned here, I'm subscribed to this channel after school, and they had this video here with Randall Carlson. Why is there no record of ancient humans? And he sort of goes into that a bit, and he talks about the catastrophes that happen on this planet and the intervals that they happen in over 150, 160,000 years. According to him in this video as well, which I know as well, is that according to mainstream science, human beings, Homo sapiens, have the same level of intelligence that they had 150,000 years ago as they do right now. Okay, same level of intelligence. All right. So I think what's being implied here is that there could have been a dozen civilizations as advanced as ours on this planet that were completely and totally destroyed, and whatever remnants of them just laid to waste, vaporized, And I don't know if Carlson's a big Velikovsky fan, but I am. So, I mean, that's maybe some places where we may disagree on some things because I think a lot of the craters on this planet that we take as impact craters are really electrically formed craters. But neither here nor there. But you see what he's saying right here at the beginning. There has been some kind of a universal system at use in the ancient world. And, folks, just I guess I'm on the same wavelength because I produced this video 6 months ago, Megalithic Standardized Building Code, right here, okay, about the Chaban de Huantar in Peru. And just threw it out there and talked about it a bit in this video about this possible, standardized building code, which can be applied in whatever surroundings and circumstances you find yourself at. But in any case, just there's more to it, folks, than you think. All right, universal system at use in the ancient world. Okay, where did that universal system come from? A previous ancient world? Two previous ancient worlds? Three, four, 10? How can we possibly know? And whatever remnants are left or scarce traces of them, and people recognize them, they're called kooks for doing such, horrible things as postulating the possibilities. That's a big no-no. All right, so let me try to get through this, and again, a real interesting one here. Clark County giant race with horns. And again, folks, we don't have to get into it too deep. You got to think about this possibility of ancient, more advanced civilizations, genetic engineering, corn, etc. Who did it? How? Why? It's unknown. It's just crazy. So think about it. The ancient past is more fantastic than anything you possibly imagine. Anunnaki, Nephilim, whatever it is, that's kid stuff. That's kid stuff compared to what it really was. Okay, so you have these weird creatures in the past. You think that they felt that they were ugly or anything? Maybe they felt that they were more manly when they had these horns or whatever it is. You don't know. This is what perception. And just to go back to this for a second, all right? Here's the people at Lovelock, all right? Just to show you the skeleton skull found at Lovelock, all right? Was this person suffering from acromegaly too? Yeah, it was acromegaly. Ah, shut up. I'll give you acromegaly. No, they were slightly more robust. And look at that weird cranium there. So, look, folks, just don't pay attention to any of these acromegaly and giantism. They would love it for it to be that, because that would end, just stop inquiry right there, so. I don't care. I'll give you acromegaly on your nose. I'll break it. So, Clark County giant race with horns when men had horns. Workmen unearthed skeletons of two prehistoric giants, Springfield, Ohio, December 20th. While workmen were taking gravel out of a gravel pit near Enon, they unearthed two skeletons of human beings. One of the skulls contained 4 horns, 2 on each side of the head. The horns are uniform in size and little more than 2 inches long. They are located directly above and below the ears. Those above turn upward and those below turn downward. There is a bad fracture on the right side, indicating that this queer being was probably killed with some sharp instrument. It is thought from the size of the skull that it belonged to a man who was a giant of some prehistoric race. Skulls have been found with horns. There are photos as well as people today that are born with horns. Some modern writers claim there is no basis in the race of giants, yet we see the term race used over and over. It's too bad that the critics are only reading their own blogs and not the articles themselves. So I added that in there because that was pertinent to it. And, just anything to dismiss this claim, and they're going with the program, a lot of these people, and it's getting hard to crack. We see some cracks here and there of people considering these things seriously in mainstream, but they're poo-pooed and snuffed out and heavily criticized. So I've read many accounts here in Ohio alone here that with horns. I have some of them here, but in Chesterville, Morrow County, large skull, digging away a mound where a hotel was to be built. Oh, I didn't continue that thing with Lovelock Cave. I just wanted to mention that, in that article that we read from Ancient Stories there about the acromegaly or whatever. I mean, you have to consider this, folks. The Adena obviously had children, okay? So what were these prepubescent and pubescent children, newly pubescent, new teenagers? Well, how big were they? Were they 6 foot tall? Are they, are they doing sort of a misanalysis on the children of these peoples, like the Adena and Hopewell, or whoever it is that they find? I mean, their offspring at those ages must be like, 6 feet tall. So they're misidentifying these skeletal remains, I'm sure, as adults when they're not adults, and they're just the offspring. And, as well as I do, teenagers are weird-looking creatures. Or they have big heads and weird, children of prepubescent teens, and they all look weird, okay? So you dig up a skeleton of a prepubescent teen, and one of these hominids, one of these large hominids or humanoids or whatever they are, okay? Can you tell that it's a teen and not an adult? I guarantee you they're misidentifying a lot of these things. Guarantee it. I'll bet you. Okay, in digging away a mound where a hotel was to be built, a large human skeleton was found, but no measurements were made. It is related that the jawbone was found to fit easily over that of a citizen of the village. The local physicians examined the cranium and found it proportionately large, with more teeth than the white race of today. The skeleton was taken to Mansfield and has been lost sight of entirely. So this one disappeared back then right away. And who knows who is doing these things, these people from the Smithsonian could have agents out in the field, whatever it is, or who knows? But my interest in it was just more teeth. Again, these people were vegetarians, folks, and again, look, it's the Giants were vegetarians, not cannibals. I should have like 10,000 views on that, but you know why I don't have 10,000 views? Because either you don't believe in Giants at all, or you believe that they were cannibals, and that's it. Because you've been brainwashed to believe that they're cannibals. Okay, by all the misinformation. Okay, and the misinformation campaign directed towards these creatures since human beings, Homo sapiens, started having problems with them. Okay, so more teeth than the white race. Well, why would you need more teeth? Well, maybe you got to eat these big hard roots and stuff like that or whatever. I mean, you have capable of it and increase your diet highly there. And again, these people were left over from the Pleistocene, just like when these large animals that lived on into the Holocene, into the late Holocene, and finally died off. Reports by mainstream themselves, archaeologists and paleontologists. Right? Some of these large creatures lived for a while in the Holocene until they finally all died off or were all made, hunted to extinction, which is possible as well. But I told you about that they found out that many extinctions there in the Holocene occurred before human beings could have possibly have done it. So who's telling the truth? Okay, so the work of removing the old Indian mound in Walnut Grove, Martins Ferry, near Bel Air, Ohio, goes on slowly, owing to the care of exercise that none of the interesting relics to be found in it to be lost. Probably the most interesting article to be taken from the mound is a huge skull, which would seem to indicate that in the days of the mound builders there were giants abroad. The skull is at least twice as large as the normal average today. The skull is in good preservation, and the collection of relics exhibited in the same place are cup-like stones, which have been supposed to be made by ancient inhabitants. Very interesting, cup-like stones. Bones are found in every part of the mound, bearing out the theory that such mounds were simply cemeteries instead of graves and monuments of great chiefs. Several corpses have certainly been buried in this mound. The finding of curious precious stones are worthy of notice, which seems to be opals, emeralds, and crystals, nearly like diamonds, have been taken from the mound. Learned savants have held the proof is complete. The articles found at Moundsville, West Virginia, that the mound builders were Croatians and Phoenicians, or both. The presence of precious stones in the vicinity of these corpses, with flint darts, spearheads, stone axes, and stones with holes neatly drilled in them, may flourish another clue to the identity of the lost race. So there's just so much going on there. These people are proposing Phoenicians and Croatians and everything else. Well, there's a reason for that, because these things are not easy to explain, even for academics today. They still have a hard time explaining. They'd rather not. Okay? They'd rather not step on the toes of the Native Americans or try to say who their ancestors were, anybody white or European. But in my field of study here, I'm thinking to myself, well, besides all of that, I just want to know where the Native Americans got their red pigment from, because you can cross as many Asians and Siberians as you want, they never get a red pigment. So where did this red pigment come in the skins of the American Indians here, if they're not so old and all this kind of stuff or whatever? So where did they suddenly get red pigmentation from? Where'd that come from? Okay, maybe it was from peoples who were already here. Okay, and I just saw in Brian Forster's video on Approcus, he was talking about the DNA and about how it came, similar to that of the Black Sea, and it might have come from there or whatever. Well, who's to say it might have come from there? Maybe it's the other way around. Even Brian Forster is stuck in this new world bias, old world bias junk. Okay, it's a different story. If this is a completely different story than you can possibly think of, why would you think of that right away? What people might currently think, or what mainstream might currently think if they were evaluating it, if they even agreed to evaluate it. Why get stuck in their mire and muck of bullshit? Okay? Jiminy crickets. Okay, Cuyahoga County, giant footprint in solid granite. Okay, so Here's the reason why I picked this out, okay? I don't even know if I want to get into it or not. It's just, look, if there's a footprint in granite that was put there when the stuff was soft, okay, and it's done by prehistoric man or the people comparable to the people they find in these mounds or whatever it is, okay, do you really think they were machine softening it with some machine they were using and then going hunting buffalo with spear flints and whatnot? I just... Look, if this stuff was soft, it's probably because they just mixed it up. Okay? Even the primitive peoples might have had the recipe for this. Okay? And if the story's straight and the timeline's correct, which I don't think it is, okay? And even Brian Forston's video with the dating and everything, the newer dates. It always has to be newer dates. If you do a comparable dig in Europe or whatever, it's the beaker, they're always older. They got to be even a little bit older or whatever. It can never be because it's the new world, you see. So it's always new. Okay, so he's just talking about Randall Carlson. The North America is completely wiped clean of whatever was on there. Okay, and could it be the answer to everything in the world? Like I said, when they say it is this Asian and African influence with the Olmec and Asian influence with the, Mayans and Aztec and Inca, whatever it is, maybe it's the other way around. Who says it's not? Because it's the new world, right? And we got to follow their radiocarbon dating, which they don't even trust, and has this, error quotient, just forget about it. Cuyahoga County, giant fruit in the solids, and evidence is skewed and possibly shows that Cuyahoga Valley was once inhabited by a giant race of people. Bee House Station agent at IRA, 7 miles to the north in the valley, has unearthed a collection of implements and mound builders. Discoveries made by a band of molding sand. There are several of these banks in the valley and also many ancient forts that now will be explored. The find consists of a portion of a skeleton man who was over 8 feet tall. The jawbone is fully twice as large as an ordinary human being's jawbone. Near the skeleton was also found a stone axe weighing 14 pounds, rare copper beads, and fine specimen of copper wedges, and decorated pottery. Howe has in his possession 1,500 stone implements. And here's the footprint. Okay, that was from the Stark County Democrat. And here's a very large footprint in solid granite. Okay, so if it's in solid granite, how could it happen in solid granite? Okay, unless that foot was, burning white hot like the sun. Okay, when it's put in there, or it was soft somehow, and it wasn't softened up by machine or whatever, they just mixed it up. Granite can be mixed up, folks. I'm sorry, it's a geopolymer. Alright? There's natural granite and geopolymer granite in the past. Okay? Go through it on my website. One of the most popular videos on my website is Sartarian free energy geopolymer. It's one of the most popular videos on my website. So there's a very large footprint of granite like you've seen elsewhere. How is it doing that? Because they mix up granite, folks, like cement. Tippecanoe, feet -2. Okay. Giant skeleton has been unearthed in a Woolton farm west of here, Tippecanoe City. The skeleton measures 8 feet from the top of the head to the ankles, the feet being missing. The skull is large enough to fit as a helmet over an average man's head. The skeleton was on one of several found buried in the form of a wheel under a mound with the feet towards the hub. So, just to be clear about it, these mounds are various types of burials. These wheel ones are also common and may relate to some particular time period when they were doing these types of burials, okay? Crawford County, large Indian deteriorated. The lack of mounds and other evidence in the presence of semi-barbarous race in Crawford County before the Indian first lighted his campfires on the prairie or in the forests of the western continent has led archaeologists and antiquarians to the conclusion that the county was a portion of the neutral ground which separates the host of 2 or more hostile nations of mound builders. Just interesting that they would say that. So hostile mound builders, hostile towards themselves. Some authorities have suggested that the mound builders ultimately deteriorated into the ancestors of the Indian races. An elaboration of their works, they were unquestionably subservient to rulers or superiors who had the power to enforce the erection of gigantic structures. which, considering the semi-barbarous condition of the people, their lack of suitable implements of labor, and their imperfect and insufficient knowledge of mechanical principles, are surprisingly vast and extant and ingenious in design. Their works indicate that the people were warlike, that they were familiar with many mathematical and mechanical rules, that they were religious and probably idolatrous, as the effigies and sacred structures imply, that they were skilled in the manufacture of bone and metallic ornaments and pottery, and that they attained no little degree of perfection in the working of metals, and that they were essentially homogeneous in customs, pursuits, religion, and government. They were unquestionably well advanced in many arts of civilization. They, of necessity, were an agricultural people, being too numerous to live by the chase alone.